All right, man, peace. You know, brothers, one of the most important aspects of maturing and getting older in this life is being able to spot and verify a malcontent. The reason why it's so important to be able to do that is because there is no salvation for a malcontent. There is no conversion of a malcontent. There is no assuaging of the fears and the worries of a malcontent. A malcontent is able to find a sand grain of negativity in the middle of the damn Sahara Desert. Once you're able to verify that someone in your vicinity is a malcontent, do what you can to separate yourself from that person, because all they're going to do is bring all of their negative energy into your atmosphere. And this seems to be the type of person that Kevin Durant is showing himself to be. Why am I saying all this? Because Kevin Durant, the former superstar forward of the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Golden State Warriors, seems to be exhibiting some of these traits. Is he actually a malcontent, or does he just seemingly exhibit some of these traits and characteristics? We'll find out, because as they say, the first time is an instance, the second time is a coincidence, and the third time is just you. So if he falls out with the Brooklyn Nets and Kyrie Irving, we'll know that he has some type of issue within himself that he's trying to project on those that are surrounding him. KD has recently came out and admitted that the reason why he left Golden State is because he could not deal with the overall pressure that was being exerted upon him by the liberal sports media, as well as feeling like an outsider within the locker room of the Golden State Warriors. Do I think that this was a relevant or real thing? Yes, I do, because I do believe that Kevin Durant is a searcher. I don't think that he's ever going to be fully happy with the game of basketball because he is a perfectionist. And one of the components of being a perfectionist is that you're never truly content or happy with your environment. You're always trying to make it a little bit better. And if you truly research or study perfectionists, they normally exhibit traits of someone that has an obsessive compulsive disorder. There's always something that they're nitpicking about themselves to try to make it a bit better. That can make it difficult to dwell in an environment with someone like that, because they start to nitpick those around them. They start to nitpick their situation, their environment, the coach, the general manager, where they're living. So it's going to be very interesting to see how Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving get along in that Brooklyn Nets locker room, because sometimes people can be friends from a distance, but it's a whole different thing to share an apartment with someone as a roommate, which is basically what you're doing when you become a teammate of another person in a sports locker room. So anyway, they're going to talk about it, and I'm going to chime in.
Let's get back to Kevin Durant, because we talked a little bit yesterday about the interview he had with WSJ Magazine. The whole interview, I would really tell people.
These two cats look like a couple of best friends who are sitting down next to one another on the school bus as they head off on a class trip. And at the beginning of the departure of the school bus, they're getting along well, they're telling one another jokes. But about an hour into the drive, I'm not quite sure if they're going to want to sit next to one another anymore. But we're going to find out.
We'll read this because it's a very insightful interview about a lot of topics. One of them, though, that we didn't get to cover yesterday was that he was talking about how simple his decision to sign with the Nets was. That the Nets offered the opportunity, he said, to join his best friend in the league. Paul, do you share Kevin's confidence that going for the Nets with Kyrie was the right choice, especially because he did know when he signed, obviously, he'd have this dead year of recovering from the Achilles?
Well,
as I've already stated in another video, it's very obvious to me that Kyrie Irving is the Luciferian master to Kevin Durant's Luciferian apprentice in their situation, their rapport as people, as quote-unquote friends or what have you. As we all know by now, Kyrie Irving is an initiate into one of the Hermetic lodges, and I have very little doubt that Kevin Durant has followed him into that lodge or into that understanding per se. If you pay very close attention, Kevin Durant likes to sport the number 7, which in and of itself has a resonance representing the quote-unquote crown chakra to represent illumination or what have you. That's one of the main reasons why you have the 5%ers who have the number 7, and they venerate that as well. Even in the scriptures, the number 7 represents completion. But I have very little doubt that Kevin Durant, the dude who used to walk around with his Bible in his backpack, is now heavily into Hermeticism or the Luciferian doctrine, which many NBA players and NFL players are immersed in, not just Kyrie. It's just that Kyrie is brave enough / silly enough to expose it to the public.
What I think, he has some things he wants to feel for his career by going to Golden State. One was win a championship. He already won an MVP in OKC, fulfilled that. Then he moved on to Golden State. But another thing that was left out is I think he believes that he doesn't get enough recognition. I still believe KD believes he's the best player on the planet. And when he won those 2 championships, he didn't get that recognition. So that is probably the reason he wants to go to the Nets and show people that he could be that player again. Now, after coming up,
He was coming to the East Coast regardless. Whether it was the Knicks or the Nets, he knew that he was going to get as far away from Golden State as possible. He knew that he was going to team up with his Luciferian master or chief, Kyrie Irving, and it was going to be on one of the New York teams. It's very obvious that by the end of KD's tenure in Golden State, he was so distant from the rest of his teammates in the front office, he was done with them. It was almost like a couple who's going through a separation or a divorce, and they're still living in the same apartment because they're waiting for their lease to run out.
Achilles injury, I don't know if that's possible, but I think that all had to take place in his thinking and going to the Nets. I think he knew he wanted to go there probably in training camp last year.
No doubt about it.
That this would be his last year in Golden State.
And remember, it was opening week of last season that we saw that argument with him and Draymond, so it was obviously all bubbling up even then.
Yeah, I mean, I think the weird thing is this is a guy who, by his own words, happiness has not been easy to capture, right? Or if he captures it, it's fleeting, right? So,
once again, when you're in the vicinity of someone like that who is a malcontent, number one, steel yourself. Number two, start working on your plan to extricate yourself from that environment or being in the same vicinity as that person.
He's got an up and down kind of experience in Golden State, even though it was a lot of winning. You would think there should be no up and down there, but he had it. So he's going to go to Brooklyn, and it's a new place with new people who got to get accustomed and acclimated to all over again. That's beyond him rehabbing. But now he's got to do it with another guy who also is famously very up and down, who famously happiness is hard to grasp onto. And so when you got
KD wants Kyrie to be his D Wade on the basketball floor. Off the floor, Kyrie is going to be the chief. On the floor, KD is planning on being the chief. Whether or not Kyrie allows that, we'll see.
this many people who are kind of inconsistent in their mood, the more you have of that, the harder it is to control the situation. So I don't know if he's going to find what he's looking for in Brooklyn. I do know it's not going to be as easy as he probably thinks it is.
No doubt about it. Once again, KD wants Kyrie to be his D Wade. Low-key, KD views LeBron James' career as the blueprint for his own. Where LeBron James went to Miami, KD went to Golden State. KD knows that he can't go back to OKC like LeBron went back to Cleveland. KD also knows that he's not going to go to Washington, which is the team that plays for his location where he was raised in. So the next best thing is going to New York alongside of Kyrie. And if he can, maybe he can have a more fruitful engagement or a more fruitful partnership with Kyrie Irving than LeBron did, because he's constantly comparing himself to LeBron James.
Because of all the newness.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm confused, really.
Right.
No shit, brother. You're always confused.
That's all I'm going to say here is like, why?
I mean, I'm really confused by the move and, him getting with Kyrie. I just, these two guys, they've been kind of a little bit weird to me.
Weird is an understatement. Both of those cats are out there, but we know why.
They're different. They're different.
Yeah, I would say that, yes.
Both Amin and Paul Pierce know a lot more than what they're letting on.
They say that bring back the earth is a lot of different things we say.
Okay, you cannot lump Kevin Durant into the earth being flat. That is
these
out
guys
there.
got some interesting. They different.
That's right. By the way, I said during the break that Paul has done everything, because we talked about your Team USA experience. Talked to him about being a net. Oh, he's done that too. I do want to get to KD mentioning in the piece how he felt about the Warriors offense. Here was this quote: "The motion offense we run in Golden State, it only works to a certain point. So now
The only reason why Kevin Durant is saying this is because he's resentful that the quote-unquote motion offense of the Golden State Warriors mostly was meant to benefit Stephen Curry. He wanted the entire team to be turned over to him, and when it didn't happen, I believe that was the initiation of a lot of the acrimony between Kevin Durant and Steve Kerr.
I have to dive into my bag deep to create my stuff on my own. off the dribble, ISOs, pick and rolls, more so than let the offense create points for me. Do you agree with this?
No, I don't necessarily agree with this, but once again, it's a reflection of the issues that Kevin Durant has. He's claiming that he had to dive into his bag to create stuff on my own. Bro, you were being flanked by Stephen Curry. You were being flanked by Stephen Curry and Klay Thompson. They was only so deep that you had to dive into your bag. It was not like you were being the recipient of hard double teams. So let's knock it off. But you're going to find out with the Brooklyn Nets what it's like to have teams hard double team you, even with Kyrie out there. And Kyrie's a great player, but he's not Stephen Curry.
I'm gonna go to Paul.
This is part about what I'm talking about. You play for the #1 offense on the planet. You guys are winning championships, but then there's a complaint. Like, of course, the defense is gonna get tougher the later rounds you get, but at some point, yeah, you intermix a lot of one-on-one with the system. The system worked. It wasn't broken, and the reason they only lost this year is because of the injury. So this is the type of stuff I'm talking about with KD.
Well, KD was worried that he was never going to get his quote-unquote credit as long as he stayed in Golden State because he was too busy listening to people like Shannon Sharpe and Nick Wright, people who were malcontents themselves, who were frustrated at what Kevin Durant did because they felt like it was going to hamper LeBron James' chance to win championships. And KD allowed himself to be manipulated. It happens all the time.
Oh, I don't get what he's searching for. Like, it worked what you were doing.
But not more than that. One of the reasons...
He's looking for the same moment that LeBron James had in 2016. Remember, when LeBron won those 2 championships in Miami, he didn't cry. He cried after he won that 1 championship with the Cleveland Cavaliers in 2016. And I promise you, if Kevin Durant wins that 1 championship in Brooklyn, he's going to cry and he's going to act as if this is the achievement or the accomplishment that completes his career.
He left Oklahoma City was, man.
KD has a lot of Kobe in him. In the same way that Kobe would troll Michael Jordan in a stalkerish way, KD does a bit of that to LeBron James.
So much individuals, so it's so hard to create my own offense. Right. And so you go to a place where they literally everything is just humming, and now it's like, well, I don't get enough ISO stuff. And that's what I'm talking about. This is someone where happiness is hard to grasp for him. So if you're not happy, like he said, playing in an offense that makes everybody a threat, then it's tough. And by the way, I would disagree with it only works up to a point. It worked pretty well last year in the conference finals. It worked pretty well before he got there. It worked pretty well even after he got. Remember that first finals? Remember when he's coming down in the break and Steph Curry's on one way and Klay's on the other, and all the defense goes like this, and everyone's like, you just like Kevin Durant have a wide open layup.
Well, that's the point. When Kevin Durant got that wide open layup, he turned on Undisputed, or he turned on First Take the next day and subjected himself to the vitriol of Stephen A. Smith or Shannon Sharpe, and he allowed it to impact his decision making. And then on top of that, that buffoon Bob Myers gets on stage after they win their 2nd championship and makes those ridiculous jokes.
It's the offense. That wasn't anyone's individual greatness. So, I mean, look, God bless him. If he thinks he's not going to find it in Golden State, he's free to look for it somewhere else. But it's just one of those things. Is that what you really want?
I just think it's unfortunate, and obviously, it's unfortunate for so many reasons that he had the injury he had, that he's going to sit out this year. If he was going to make a change, you want him to be able to just start, right?
Yeah.
He and Kyrie could start together on this team where Brooklyn has such a good culture. I would really buy.
That would have been nice.
Wow. Yeah. He can make a whole new place for himself here. He can really change his spot in the game and how people think of him, and doing it in a market like New York where it's just...
Are you really going to spend 30 seconds speaking about a fake scenario that's never going to happen? The reality is that he tore his right Achilles tendon. That's what we have to deal with.
Big, right? You're just getting proportionally a bigger percentage of the basketball audience to come on that ride with you because they're supporting your team. But now he's going to have this weird situation through no fault of his own where he's got to...
No weird situation. He's rehabbing while making $30+ million a year. He's in a very good place.
Back and be the outsider again for the year because we know how separated guys get during rehab, and then try to integrate again the following season. So we'll see how that goes.
I have a sneaky suspicion that he's not going to be that separated from his teammates, especially since they all know that when he's relatively healthy, he's the most dynamic offensive player in the game of basketball. He's a 7-foot player with shooting guard skills. Once again, when he stepped on the floor in Game 5, there was nothing that anyone could do to guard him, and that's what that hampered Achilles. Kawhi tried to guard him. Siakam tried to guard him. They could do nothing with him. So, I mean, it is what it is. Peace.